Hi guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a relatively quick one because my daughter's not feeling the greatest and I have about 5 minutes until she needs me to go back in there because she's gonna realize that I'm gone. But today's video is going to be about the things that I would do differently if I was having my first kid again, or if I ever decided to have a second one that I would do differently. They're not huge things, but just some things that I feel like I wish I would have known before I had my first kid. So let's get right into them. So the very first one, it has to do with making mom friends. Now, don't get me wrong, I obviously have friends in my life that are moms, but that said, I think that one thing that I would have done differently, even had it been a different time, I was pregnant during 2020 when everything was shut down, and I would have taken the parenting classes in person. I took them online and I learned a lot from the classes, but I would have used them to make mom friends because the women that were in that class with me, or the couples that were in that class with us, they were pregnant the exact same time. And I think that even though obviously you don't have to have friends that have kids the same age as you, but it does make it a lot different, or a little bit easier to do so. Because like I said, even with my best friend, when Aurora was a tiny baby, and her daughter is around 2 years older than my daughter, and so even when Aurora was a baby, it's not like we could have play dates with a toddler and a baby. Now obviously we still hung out, we figured it out, but I'm just saying it is super helpful if you have mom friends that have kids the same age as you, because then you can do things together. You're going through the same things at the same time. And so I just think that it would have been nice if I would have been able to utilize those parenting classes to make mom friends. Obviously not the only place that you can make mom friends, but it would have been like the easiest. Like, they're taking that class because they live in the vicinity, they're pregnant at the same time. So just something to keep in mind, because I know that they still offer most of them online, but I just highly recommend taking them in person. The second thing that I would not do is I would not stress over like baby milestones. I know that like I think I had 2 or 3 different apps where I was like tracking, like, okay, this week she's going through this leap and she should be doing this. And you know, most of the time she did, but then there were certain things where it took her a little bit longer and she wasn't doing what the app said that she should be doing, and I would like stress over it and I would work with her to try to get it done. And honestly, that is just so unnecessary. Like, your baby and your child is going to get there when they get there. If it takes them a little bit longer, there's nothing wrong with your kid. Like, it's just something that I stressed about a lot, and you really just don't need to. Like, yeah, like you should keep in mind like what should be coming up just to prepare yourself, but if you don't hit it right at that time, don't worry about it. It's not a huge deal. The third thing, talking about stressing over things, is I was so stressed about getting her on a schedule, like keeping a nap schedule and keeping a bedtime schedule and eating at certain times. And while that is important, because like my daughter does really well with routine, when her routine is thrown off, there are some rough days, like especially now that she's a toddler. Like, if we skip the one nap time, like it's a rough day usually. But I remember that I would stress, like if she skipped a nap, or if her nap was like an hour later than normal, I would completely freak out about it. And you know, I would choose my activities that I was doing around her schedule. And while there are still times that I say no to things because it's during nap time, I just think that like it's okay to be a little bit flexible, especially if you're like me and you like kind of majorly stressed about it, because it's really not. If you don't follow a schedule and your baby naps at different times every single day, it's fine. Like, now that so my daughter is almost 2.5, and there's like an hour and a half, 2-hour window of when her nap will start. And it depends on when she wakes up in the morning or how she's acting. If I can tell that she didn't get a good night's sleep and she wakes up tired, we take a nap earlier. If we're playing or out doing something, she goes to bed earlier. And that just is what works for us. And I think had I started that from the very beginning, one, I think potentially she could have napped easier other places because I typically kept her home during nap time, or we left, like we would drive to the place or drive home from the place like during nap time so she could nap in the car. So just something that I would keep in mind, like don't stress over the schedule, just do what feels right. If what worked yesterday doesn't work today, it's fine. It doesn't mean that you need to throw the schedule out the window, but it also doesn't mean that you like did something wrong today. The fourth thing is to so I breastfed my daughter until she was a year and a half. And when she was first born, my husband took like 3 weeks off. There was like Christmas and New Year's in there, so he had some time off already. So it was either 3 or 4 weeks that he was home when she was first born. And while he was home, we were really good about giving her bottles. Like he would do usually like the dinner time feeding. He would give her a bottle, then sometimes maybe during the day if I was taking a shower or doing something, and it was great. But once he went back to work, we lost that consistency. And so we would still try to give her bottles, but it would be like every 2 or 3 days. And eventually, when doing that, she just completely stopped taking a bottle. And like I obviously know like eventually she would have gotten hungry enough to take the bottle, but like I was breastfeeding her 90% of the time, so I wasn't gonna do that. And eventually she just stopped, like even before my maternity leave was up, she stopped taking a bottle. And that really bit me in the butt once I went back to work and she started going to my mother-in-law's house. And then like she wouldn't eat very well while she was there, and it just kind of it ended up being stressful. And then also like my husband couldn't help with any of the feedings at that point in time. So it really would have been so much better if we would have been really consistent about it from the very beginning. I didn't think that it was a big deal because I was like, oh, she'll just take a bottle. She will not. They will not just take a bottle if you're not consistent about it. At least mine didn't. So just really stay consistent about stuff like that if that's something that you want. And then the last thing that I would do differently is honestly like my biggest one, like it's probably my biggest regret at this point in time. And that is to have a rotating bedtime person. Like I said, since I breastfed for so long, I always put her to bed because I nursed her to sleep. And to this day, if I'm home, my husband cannot put my daughter to sleep. If I'm not home, she goes to bed just fine. So like I've told him, like I've threatened, like I'm just gonna go sit in my car while you put her to bed and then come in. I haven't actually done it yet, but there was a time when the bedtime routine took like an hour. My daughter still to this day hates sleeping, and so bedtime has always been bedtime has always been exhausting for me mainly, because she wouldn't let my husband take her to bed. And there were so many times that he wanted to, because he knew that I was tired and that I didn't want to go through that whole thing, and it would have been nice for him to do it. But she literally would scream like there was a stranger putting her to bed. And it was just because her routine was that I took her. And to this day, he still gets her ready for bed. Like he does all the changing, getting ready. And then I actually take her upstairs. We read a book, pray, go to bed. And it really works for us now. But there are still times, like if I had a long day at work, or like I'm cleaning up the house or cleaning the kitchen or doing something, it would be so nice to just be like, hey, can you just do the book and the prayers in the bed? Like, and we just can't do that. Like I said, it's getting easier, but it's still, I would just highly recommend that if you want to be able to switch off, you need to start switching off from the get-go. Just highly recommend it for smoother transitions, and it would be great. So now that we've been through like my top 5 things I would do differently if I was having another kid, or if I could do it over again, I'm actually going to give you 3 things that I am glad that I did it the way that I did it, and I would do exactly the same. The very first one is that one of the reasons was because, again, it was 2020, but I only had my husband at the hospital. And honestly, if I was to do it again, I wouldn't know this if I wouldn't have done it again, but if I was going to have another baby, I would do the exact same thing. I know that people are super excited about seeing the new baby. They also, like, you know, your parents are really worried about you, like, while you're having the baby. Like, they just want to make sure you're okay. Like, and I know some people really want to have, like, their mom with them and all that. She noticed I was gone. Hold on. Hi. Did you let yourself out?
Yeah.
You want to come say hi?
Yeah. Hi.
Can you say hi?
Hi.
Can you tell them that you're not feeling the best today?
Yeah.
You're feeling kind of like you have a cold. You don't have a fever, but you're all stuffy.
Hi.
You're so cute. Can mommy have like 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you go back in there and I'll be in there in like 5 minutes? And I'll bring your pizza.
But I still want you.
You still want me? Okay. All right. You can sit with me. So again, like, I understand that it's going to be different, but for me personally, I loved that it was just me and my husband, because, like, something that I think that people don't always consider because of the excitement that comes around with having a baby is that that's the first that the...
I'm a baby.
You're a baby.
Mommy, what are you doing?
I'm filming a video.
I want a baby too.
You're in the video right now. But I think that they forget that it's the first time that the...
Mommy.
What, baby?
I want my pizza.
It's almost done, okay?
This is done.
Almost. But that is the first that the parents are meeting the baby too. And so I know that for me personally, I had my baby and then like an hour later somebody came in and like tried to hold the baby, like take the baby from me, I wouldn't have liked that. Now don't get me wrong, like my parents, like my family was waiting for me at my house when we got home from the hospital. I loved that. Wouldn't change that. It was perfect. The hospital. But again, like I said, like I wouldn't have them come to the hospital because it was just nice to be able to rest. Like I didn't feel like I had to tell people right away about, like, you know, because they obviously want to know how your labor went. Like I didn't have to socialize. I didn't have to entertain, I guess. And I also just had that alone time with my husband and my baby. All right, she has her pizza. I have a few more minutes. But again, so I would just, if I were doing it again, I would only have my husband in the hospital, even though other people are allowed in there now. It's just what worked the best for us. The second thing is that I talked to Aurora a lot, even when it was just her and I talked normal, like normal sentences, normal day-to-day things. I talked about what I was doing when we were doing it, and I just would really recommend doing that again because her vocabulary is really broad for how old she is, and I'm obviously not attributing that to just me. Like there's other things that have taught her things as well. But I just know that, you know, if you're home by yourself with your baby, it can be really easy to like go the whole day either only baby talking or not really talking that much. And so I just highly recommend talk the entire day. Let them hear the words, let them know that this is how you communicate, because she started talking, and like part of that is like I never stop talking, so like it's just like she must take after me. Like she's definitely my kid because now she never stops talking, and she just, you know, she speaks. You can have full-on conversations, sentences, all the things, and I just really think that us talking to her so much really helped with that. And the last thing, and this is going to be a super probably button pushing topic, and this is just personally for my family, so if you don't follow this, please, I'm not like saying anything negative about it, but for our family, not co-sleeping really worked for us. And I understand that you need to do whatever works best for your family, but the reason that I say that is because she has always had such a hard time sleeping, And don't get me wrong, there are times when I've been desperate, so I've tried to get her to sleep with us. And since we've never done it in the past, she doesn't sleep with us. And like I said, it took her so long to sleep through the night that when I was in my bed and she wasn't keeping me up, like I needed to be sleeping. So had she been in the bed with us and she would have woke up so much or tossed and turned, like one, I can't sleep when she's laying next to me. I just don't get comfortable because I'm worried about rolling on her or doing anything. So I wouldn't have gotten a good sleep. But two, I also just think like it was better for my marriage that she was not in bed with us and we didn't have to worry about her being in between us or making sure that, you know, we slept far enough apart. Like it was just, you know, we don't have to worry about that. We don't have to go to bed at the same time as her. We don't have to worry about waking her up when we get up. Like, and I just think that not co-sleeping just really worked for us. Again, I know that that's probably a hot topic, and there are some people who think it's the best thing ever, and that's great if that works for you. But like, she's sleeping through the night now. She's not in our bed. And so we're sleeping through the night, and it really just works for us. I know that I have friends who have slept with their kids and like they're sleeping with their kids for years and they don't know how to get the transition back. And I'm just really thankful that I don't have to deal with that, especially since sleep was such a hard thing for so long. And like, we're finally in a good rhythm with it where she sleeps through the night. I don't have to go in there. She is great. She still hates going to sleep, but now when she falls asleep, we're typically good to go. And so just really recommend that. So I hope that some of these tips were helpful. I hope that it answers maybe some questions that you have, or if it's stuff that you're dealing with right now, I hope that you realize that like what you're going through is normal and all the things. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.